greetings to you all. You are very welcome to another session of mindfulness meditation as a way of life. So as usual, to begin with, let's pay our respect to our teacher, who is the worthy one, the enlightened one, the supremely enlightened one. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So, as always, in so doing, we tend to express our sense of gratitude towards our teacher from whom we learned this kind of spiritual practice for the sake of well-being in our life and all around the world. Well, so today we will be deepening our understanding and practice of contemplation of feelings as feelings based on the four foundations of mindfulness. Right? So, well, first of all, how is everything going with you? Is everything going well with good health, fortune, and spirits? Okay, great. So, since we had the last session, maybe several weeks back, did you have a good time with your own practice? How did you find it? Good and bad, comes some. So we have been discussing about feelings. So I think a couple of months ago we finished the very first part of the foundations of mindfulness, which is contemplation of body. So since then we started doing contemplation of feelings, shedding light on our earlier practice. So at the outset we learned kind of the foundations or kind of essentials of feelings. Today we kind of are hoping to expand the horizon of feelings. So in the discourse, as I said earlier, perhaps you can remember we have a variety of types in feelings as a human being. So we said we have pleasant feelings, unpleasant feelings, and neutral feelings, which mean neither pleasant nor painful, kind of in between. So today we are hoping to delve into that. We have more categories when we learn it. So this is just a lesson, as I always say, because for example, you cannot learn swimming in a classroom. If you really want to learn how to swim, then indeed you have to practice and you have to jump into a river with a good teacher and with a good supervision. Then you see and you learn for yourself, oh, this is how I can swim. So similarly, what we do here, we learn the theories. So then indeed you have to implement all the nuts and bolts of these theoretical underpinnings of feelings when it comes to your day-to-day life. So, saying so, we have to learn another two types, samisa and niramisa. Samisa means sensual pleasures, the feelings which are related to sensual pleasures. Niramisa means renunciation, kind of, it gives rise to the sense of giving up, renunciation. That means niramisa. So basically, all the feelings, the 6 types of feelings can be categorized into these main 2 types, samisa and niramisa. sensual pleasures, that means worldly feelings, this worldly pleasures, this worldly feelings. There is a nice discourse in the middle length sayings of the Buddha. So, it says, sensual pleasures, right? These worldly feelings are based on and rooted at desire or craving, and irritation or hatred, and ignorance or delusion. If you just look at yourself and surroundings, your eye, ear, nose, tongue, and your body, plus your mind, your 5 organs, they are always in contact with the 5 senses, the 5 sense objects: image, sound, smell, taste, touch, and other kind of mental objects that we always create and produce within us. Whenever you see and you spot them, you can say, oh, either it is related to desire or craving, or is it related to irritation, hatred, for some reason, or one way or another. Neutral, which means you're in the clutches of ignorance or delusion because it's blurred. You cannot really spot it and you cannot notice it very well. You can say. So please take a mindful reflection upon you. When you live in your life, when you talk with people, when you communicate with others, you can absolutely find them out. Pleasant feeling with desire. Have you experienced it? Pleasant feeling, craving, desire, lust in your life? Of course. These are very much noticeable, very much experiential. That's why our teacher has explained these kind of vital phenomenon as meditative subjects or objectives in real practice. Pleasant feeling with desire, right? It is very noticeable. Then unpleasant feeling with hatred, irritation. It is also very obvious, isn't it? It's very obvious. Maybe in your workplace, or in your family, at home, with your own siblings, or with your parents, or with your colleagues, with your neighbors. That's very common. That's very common to people. So unpleasant feeling with hatred. Also, there are some moments, perhaps you might have come across, you cannot define. It's either pleasant or unpleasant. You are kind of set in motion, but it is undecisive. You're kind of being blurred, which means neither pleasant nor painful. So that relates to ignorance, illusion and delusion, because we have a kind of the sense of ignorance. We cannot understand it. We cannot see it clearly and distinctly. That's why it's said ignorance, or one way or another. So, in all, I should say that indeed we cannot well spot these things in the blink of an eye. We need real thorough practice in our life. The more you practice, the more you see. The less you practice, the less you see. So, if you really want to see things in depth, as a breakthrough study or deep exploration within you, then indeed you need to put into practice more and more. So practice is key. There is central importance of that. So, well, then what is the renunciation? The nirams of feelings, renunciation, related to the sense of giving up. As a practitioner, when we practice meditation in depth, so then we slowly go into detail of our mind, then we are calming down and slowing down. We are in a state of deep calm and silence. perhaps it means to me another dimension of cognitive faculties, or sometimes not, or another state of psychological well-being, sometimes is, sometimes not. So because that is beyond our material knowledge and material contents of the mind or brain, it's far beyond. So then we have the state of deep concentration or one-pointedness, deep consciousness. Then we have the pleasant feeling with renunciation, we say with spiritual underpinnings, not very much corporeal things, with not very much material and this worldly things. But when we are in deep concentration, in meditation, we have a pleasant feeling. And also sometimes it also relates to, as I said, neutral feeling. No, neither pleasant, no unpleasant. As well as there are sometimes, and there are some experiential moments we feel disappointed, we feel frustration because of imperfection of our own practice. There are many people who say, I practice this much, but I haven't gained anything at all. I have gained nothing. Then they say, I do practice, but there is no growth, there is no improvement, there is no success at all. So by all means, he or she tends to say, this is a failure, I'm not happy with it. So you say, that leads us to unpleasant feeling still within the scope of this spiritual framework. Now you can see that feelings, the study of feelings, is not a simple phenomenon itself. By no means we cannot narrow down into simple and integrated things in life. Indeed, we need a thorough practice to see that. So that is the first thing. The second, in the discourse and also in practice, we can see, perhaps you can remember last time I said the impermanence, the uncertainty, to understand the ephemeral nature of life, even just reflecting upon your feelings. So I know we cannot attain it at a canter, but it is still on its way. So we should be ready to see that. So, for example, when you notice a feeling, either pleasant or unpleasant or neutral, then you have the sense of beingness. Right? So you're kind of being exposed to the exposed to the presence of your own self. So there's a sutta called Mahanidana. In the long sayings of the Buddha, it says a couple of kind of formulas. Feeling is myself and feels myself. Who is me? Who is the sense of being? And what's the sense of being? There is a certain feeling, and you can, and also you can notice to some degree in your perception, your psychological perception, you could see that, there is a so-called person who feels that, right? There is a person and there is a feeling, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. So when they are in contact, you see that is the existence. So then you see beingness and feeling, X and Y. X is equal to Y, then Y is equal to X. These are synonymous to some degree in sensual perception. So then what happens if one is collapsed? If one is destroyed? Can the other side stand on its own? No, it can't. So it's also collapsed. That's interconnectedness. That's togetherness. Our sensation and our perception, these two processes are intermingled, they are intertwined. That's how the beingness arises within us. So, contemplation of feelings leads you to see this in-depth phenomenon in your life. The doctrine of arising and the doctrine of falling away. It arises and falls away. It comes and goes, it appears and disappears. So we all see this two-dimensional world, feeling and present. Then what's the situation? There is no self. Myself is without feelings. Myself is without feeling. The zero. Because these two entities are interconnected. So if they are not interconnected in one way or another, then we have the presence of zero, kind of voidness, kind of emptiness. To see your feelings is a great way, and it opens up a window to see this ephemeral and impersonal nature of your beingness. So, the nature of comes and goes, nature of rises and falls away. Right? So, and last but not least, your feelings are also important to think in terms of creating your views, either right or wrongness in your life. Why? That's a kind of conditioned nature of feelings. Because feeling is not itself unconditioned. To raise a feeling, to come up with a feeling, there should another link, causal connection. Right? What's the causal connection to feeling? And when one has a feeling, to what it gives rise. So, feeling is caused by contact or sensation. Phassa paccaya vedana. So once you have the feeling, then it leads you to vedana paccaya tanha, or all the kind of defilements of craving and fretting for the world and so forth. So it begins with, in the middle, with contact, and contact leads you to feelings, then the feelings lead you to craving and all the types of our detrimental defilements in our mind. So that is a causal chain. So this is one point. So during the contemplation of feelings meditation, we are supposed to see this feeling at its origin. So it is the reference point. In seeing so, we can see the ultimate nature and fundamental structure of reality. That is the ultimate aim of doing that. Not just looking at it, not just hanging on it, not just reflecting upon things. But in so doing, we need to understand the true nature of life as it is, rather than with looking at things with tinted eyes, with kind of blurred and defiled eyes. We need to be purified by our own nature to see the world as it is. There's a wise saying in ancient wisdom. One sage said, everyone seems like pigs through the eyes of a pig. Everyone seems like Buddhas or gods through the eyes of a god or Buddha. So you see, the world is created by our own perception. Once you change it, once you shifted it, then everything begins to change. So that's how we see the enormous diversity amongst us. That is the miracle of sensual perception. So feelings is key, and it is the cornerstone to see this miraculous and beautiful nature of diversity gifted by perception in the world. So the more you can see this in depth as a self-exploration in your life, you will see where you are and what my nature is and what my beingness is and where I am and where I will be, these kind of things. So these are neither related to corporeal things nor incorporeal things. So there is no business to do with the material contents of the world, but rather your spiritual contents of your life. In all, if I summarize my introduction to the session today by drawing upon some materials from the discourse, but I explained to you three things. The first is the pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. These three types of feelings are still categorized under this world, the sensual pleasure feelings and non-sensual pleasure feelings. So they are decided by lust, irritation, and ignorance, and non-desire, and non-hatred, and non-ignorance. So they work in hand in glove, they work hand in hand. So then we have to be mindful, we have to always be aware of that. Then the second, I said, this also helps us to see the ephemeral nature of life. As I said earlier, the X is equivalent to Y, the Y is equivalent to X, your beingness and your feeling and your beingness, and vice versa. So if one is collapsed, then the other is also collapsed. It is subject to collapse because we are interrelated. So we are causally bounded by each other. So looking at feelings, reflecting upon them, leads us to see this subtle nature. And finally, it also helps us to get the right view of our life, because it's caused by contact. And then this ties up to that craving and fretting for the world, this kind of things. So once you have the feeling with right understanding and right contemplation, then there is no room for any harm. Then you are not at stake. You are indeed safe, and you are indeed healthy. So it affects for your own well-being and the people near and far.